So as we continue our series today, we're coming to a close. We've been covering the 10, we're not all the way done with the 10 attributes, but in Matthew Kahn's book, All for Love, The Transformative Power of Holding Space for Ourselves and Each Other, today we're going to do a deeper dive into one of the attributes, but I would like to begin by sharing with you all the golden rule. The golden rule that is spoken maybe in different ways, but is within all of the major religions around the world. So I'm going to share 8 of those with you this morning. And so from the Christian faith tradition we have, so in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. And from Islam, none of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself. And from Judaism, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. This is the whole Torah. The rest is the explanation. Go and learn. From Hinduism, this is the sum of duty. Do not do to others what you would that would cause pain if done to you. And from Buddhism, hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. And Confucianism, do not impose on others what you do not wish for yourself. And from Sikhism, treat others as you would be treated yourself. And from the Baha'i faith, which is very similar, both Sikhism and the Baha'i faith is very similar to the principles of unity. Ascribe not to any soul that which thou wouldst not have ascribed to thee, and say not that which thou dost not want to be said to thee. So it's said in many different ways, and we can see throughout the golden rule, regardless of whatever faith tradition, we see the rule, quote unquote, or what we're being invited into and embodying in relationships with one another, and holding that sacred space. And so we can see throughout that the weaving of the themes of embodying compassion and empathy and kindness and moral reciprocity and mutual respect. And so it is respect that I want to take a little deeper dive into, and I'm going to share a little bit of, the perspective of Matthew Kahn in what he invites us into as when we're thinking of the golden rule and holding that compassionate space of respect. And so there's 2 aspects he would like us to focus on. And one is to just generally look at what does it mean when we say respect others. And so he shares that respect is a due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others. And I personally would add to that list a due regard for the beliefs, needs, gender, sexual orientation, age, physical stature, and ability of each other. How many of you hold those to be something you value in relationship, respecting all of these things? Not so easy sometimes, right? Not so easy. All too often we can see within our relationships, we can find ourselves reacting, being in judgment, gossiping, when someone holds a different opinion or a belief than us, right? And it's challenging to embody understanding or respect in that moment. And so sometimes we may insult or debate or jab, and like I said already, gossip. So why is it so challenging, do you think? If it's something we profess, but yet not find it challenging to do. You can put it in the chat. Anybody here who would like to share? Why do you think it's challenging? Because we're human. Yes, we are human. And our humanity sometimes teaches us different than the principles, the spiritual things, right? Don't be a doormat, you know? You got to have the upper hand. It's about competition, right? Those are the rules of sometimes of humanity. Anything else? Well, when there is a different belief, opinion, or something that is not familiar to us, it can make us uncomfortable, right? Because we like what is familiar. Not just because it's what humanity teaches us, if it goes against the common quote-unquote societal norm, whatever that may be, or what your traditions in your family and what you're used to, right? How many times do we hear the older generation saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe they listen to that crap," or right? We can't get it. Oh, those Gen Zs, baby boomers are selfish, right? We have all of this stigma around what that means. And so we are also hardwired, or the amygdala in our brain is hardwired for protection. And that's a good thing, but what happens sometimes, we treat things that are a threat rather than taking a deep breath and saying, okay, no, this is a threat because it's unfamiliar, uncomfortable. Now, I'm not talking about violent behavior or abusive behavior here, right? And so we get triggered in our physiology. The other thing is sometimes a view is just something that is so different than what we value ourselves. And so we're going to have that, right? We're going to find that it's button heads with something that we might value. And then sometimes if we're not centered in our truth and can find, situations like define us, we actually take personally, like it's a personal affront to me if you think differently. Like how many times, even in an election, if you have a different opinion of a candidate, instead of just saying, oh, they see it different, it's like, oh my God, it's because I voted for them. They're saying something horrible against me, right? So those are all the ways that we may sometimes find it challenging. And so how can we step into cultivating respect, being able to embodying it in challenging times? And so, the common things we discuss, right? Prayer, meditation, the loving kindness meditation, those people already who are in your life or in the world scene who seem to know where your buttons are hardwired within, right? We can bring them into loving kindness, be prayed up. We can know the grounding techniques, breathing in, right? When we feel that quiver or that urge for reaction, sensing our body. And also to know thyself. We talk about that all the time. Know the who, the what of you, as Charles Fillmore teaches all the time. The who is our personality, and knowing, all of our myths, our stories, where those unhealed things that touch us, knowing our values and all of that so that we can be present. And last week I had shared, right? Heal the wound so that you can hear others without it being filtered through the wound, right? And that's what happens when we can't be in respect, because we're filtering it through our own stories, our own hurts, and all of those things. So what I do want to spend some time on is one way that maybe we don't, well, we talked about it, but I would like to share with you to turn towards wonder, right? In See No Stranger, Valerie Kaur talks about this, but this is a different way. And I am studying with the Center of Courage and Renewal because one of the things I'd like to bring here is the circles of trust. It's really powerful. It's another way of being in community. And one of their touchstones, you know, some of you who've been in class with me have known that we set heart agreements. And what does that mean? It's how we're going to show up together when we're in community with one another. They just call them touchstones. But one of the touchstones is this turn towards wonder. When things get challenging, when you feel yourself wanting to react or to bait somebody, right? It's to turn towards wonder. When the going gets tough, turn to wonder. Turn from reaction and judgment to wonder and compassionate inquiry. And silently, I wonder what led them to believe or feel this way. Now, you may not be doing that in the moment you're with them, but later on, possibly, and then you learn how to do it in the moment. And then I wonder what my reactions are teaching me about myself. Is it because it's something I value? Am I taking it personally? So I just want to give you how I've, not just in a circle of trust or in a class, how I live this, trying to live this in my own life. So there was, you know, the news was on. I was at a family member's house, and it was like a clip of the DNC, something that was going on with the DNC. And so the person was like, there it is again. You know, everything. All the politicians are crooked. I'm not even going to bother. You shouldn't even watch this. You shouldn't even vote. Going on and on and on and on. So anyway, I have a little different view, not because of what was on there, but I believe it's a civil duty to vote, you know. And anyway, and it was that black and white thinking. And so maybe in the past I would have been like, do you know how, like, people who fought for you, maybe I wouldn't say it like this, but, you know, the people who died to have freedom for your right to vote, or, you know, that's black and white thinking, or maybe I wouldn't have said it like that. Like, do you think all politicians are selfish? You know, do you think all ministers, whatever, you know, when you get into that kind of thing? And I felt myself kind of like wanting to go into that little mode, and I just took a deep breath, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm hearing, you know, I'm hearing that you're upset. And I'm like, so I'm just wondering, you know, what led you to believe that all politicians are crooked? Like, I said it in a very calm way. And so the person started, still in the frustrated voice, started to share some more. And I'm like, and I'm wondering, how do you feel all about that? And then the person shared a little more, but what was happening is I was beginning to understand, I was seeking to understand, and then it became a dialogue rather than a debate of who's right and who's wrong. And then another example real quick with another family member who likes to talk about the same symptoms. And so when this person was talking about the symptoms, rather than me maybe inwardly rolling my eyes, or there's times where I just hold it in compassion, and I was just like, wow, what's the most challenging about that for you? You know, what do you think might be helpful to make you, you know, I just waited and listened, and it just was a different experience. And so at some point we can look at, how do you ask open questions rather than derogatory, like, well, why do you think that way? Or how, you know, and things like that. So I'm just saying it is powerful, not just to do in a community circle or a class, but in your personal life. And so the second aspect of how Matthew Kahn is asking us to be able to embody respect is this. To show respect or show regard, it is essential to honor an awareness and adherence to personal space, above and beyond any desire, preference, or expectation you may have When boundaries are an act of self-love, the attribute of respect helps you find the inner worth to ask for and accept the space you and others need. So again, another reason why we may be triggered is if we're not taking care of our own needs. And he shares throughout the book about him being a very well-trained codependent, that, to speak what he needed or what he wanted was not really being respectful of his own needs. And so how could he stand in a place of respect? But what I would like you to invite you into, take what you like and leave the rest as always. But when I look at personal space, it kind of reminds me back when, it's like you stand here, I stand here. And I think it's so, for me, it's so much bigger than that. It means time for solitude, right? And boundaries, again, for me is like you stay here, I stay there. I get it means more than that. But for me, it's about soul care. I need to have agreements with myself. We have heart agreements. We need to have soul care agreements. And we need to be able to speak them to the people around us, maybe not all in detail. And so we see that Jesus, the healer, the teacher, the mystic that he was, demonstrated solitude and soul care. And these are just a few. From Mark, chapter 1, verse 35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Now, pray here, we know in Unity we teach, there's all kinds of prayer, and I'm not here to teach you what's right or wrong. Unity ascribes to affirmative prayer, the declarative prayer, but here Charles Fillmore also shares not only to affirm truth, but he says that the very act of prayer is communing with the divine, God and our higher self. And so there are many ways we can commune. And then from Mark chapter 6, verse 31, but so many people were coming and going that Jesus and the apostles did not even have a chance to eat. Then Jesus said, let's go to a place where we can be alone and get some rest. They left in a boat for a place where they could be alone. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. How many of you wanted to take a break, but family members called you in need? Your job was demanding the homework, and the crowds followed you, right? And here, again, one of the things Jesus is also demonstrating is, yes, the soul care, but he was of service. And he also took the time for solitude and soul care. They were both essential. And that is where we embody our power of order in navigating between the poles of both ends. Sometimes we can swing to one extreme and then say, I've had enough of that, let's forget that. So more of that later. And then in Matthew chapter 14, verse 23, after he had dismissed them, meaning the apostles, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was then there alone. And here also, in going back, it's more than just, this is not the apostles. This is after he found out that the story goes that John the Baptist had passed. So he was going alone to grieve and spend some time in solitude. And then in Luke chapter 4, verses 1 to 2, Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tested by the devil. Now here, devil means that shadow aspect, the egoic nature, that when we go in the wilderness is that time alone, where we can look and see You know, the cyclical nature of life is, you know, there's a death, and then there's that meantime in the tomb, so to speak, or the void where we're seeking what is it in our life that we need to release? How am I being asked to transform my life? And then we're ready for a new beginning. And this was a sabbatical for Jesus before he started his teaching ministry that needed time to get clarity as to what he knew, that he was here to teach and to serve, but he needed to be centered from within to glean that clarity. And so, what are some of the ways that you commune with the divine and your higher self? You can put it in the chat. What's your soul care? Now, I just want you to notice, what do you notice? I'm saying it twice. When you hear self-care and soul care, do they differ from you? In what way, Donna? Do you mind me asking?
So self-care might be a mani-pedi, massage, those types of physical comforts and things like that. And soul care is deeper. You know, it implies that I really need to take the time to be quiet and go within, maybe be out in nature, maybe not, you know, whatever it might happen to be. But it's a way of, to me, being present to the experience of God is soul care.
Awesome. So that's why, perfect, and that's why I chose that, right? There's nothing wrong. Look at my nails, look at my toes. I get manis and pedis, and I love them. You know, and I will continue to do them. And it is a way for me to unwind. It is a way for me to, you know, be in awe of other people's beauty as she paints these creative designs on my nail that I couldn't even believe of doing a straight line. But the soul care is much deeper. Self-care might be watching the, you know, a whole season of something on Netflix. And they can be soul experiences. How many of you are moved to a deep spiritual lesson sometimes when watching a movie? Yes. But soul care would take us deeper as I wonder what it is that is bringing me to tears as I watch this movie. What is here for me? Let me be in the stillness. And so what are some ways then that you can do soul care? Commune with the divine, where you feel that you're communing with your higher self and the divine. Yeah.
And for me too, you know, selected readings, I'm selective about the source, but there are certain things that just open me in a way that I don't have the words to describe. And then journaling often follows that, where I'm able to kind of tap into what's real for me and what's going on with me, and writing excavates things that wouldn't otherwise be excavated, for me personally.
Awesome. Journaling, spiritual texts. Some of you like to get your hands in the dirt and gardening, and you feel at one with something, you know, the universal presence. Sitting under a tree, walking in nature, all the things that we've shared before, maybe without your iPod unless you're listening to chanting, but just, you know, having that time of space. You know, it's like I work so hard, I just want to do something mindless. Yes, do that, but also it's the invitation of soul care. So what are some of the signs that we are in need of solitude and soul care? What are some of those signs? Anybody can relate to some of these here? Fatigue, irritability, moody, difficulty concentrating, physical distress. And the fatigue, I go back to whether it's mental, emotional. Grieving, right? Disconnection. When we feel like the world is far away. Yes, we're supposed to turn out and go within, but it's that like, I don't want to know anybody or see anybody, right? Overwhelmed, stress, resentful, judgment, obligated, people-pleasing. You know, a gentleman yesterday came up to me after the ceremony. I had asked people, you know, in my meeting with the couple yesterday, I'd asked, you know, who would you like to acknowledge? And so I had several names of their loved ones who have passed on. And so I took time, let us hold these family members are here at our hearts. And the husband, the uncle, who was the uncle of one of them, just trying to keep anonymity, and came up to me and said, thank you so much for mentioning that was my wife. And he says, you know, they talk about grief, but it's pretty deep. And I said, yes, it is. And he says, and I'm finding every day that I need to grieve in a different way. And so that was such a beautiful moment of vulnerability, but the importance to know, like, it's not the societal thing, you know, you get your 5 days off and now we're getting on with it, right? And then the people pleasing, you know, always looking as we're navigating, you know, between the poles of self-serving others and care of self-solitude, you know, it's important. You know, maybe you are a trained helper giver, because that is, you know, the way we've been taught. And so one of the ways, you know, because we could just throw that word codependency around, but one way is to look at what is our why, right? Is it because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings? Is it because I don't think they're capable? Or is it that I'm really doing it to show that I am lovingly supporting you? And when I'm checking in, if my body's saying, no, 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 you know, like my son had asked me to go and watch Stu, his dog, for a little bit, and it was a day I wasn't feeling well. My heart and my mind was saying, yes, yes, I want to see that little fuzzy ball. But my body is saying, no, no, don't do it. And something deeper, right? You have to check in with yourself. And so what can we do when we maybe don't want to disappoint people and we need to be clear? So here, this is what the first one is, what Matthew shares in the book, Matthew Kahn. I wish I could give more, but my time has come. Maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't, not right or wrong. You can make it your own. Here are some of the things I have shared. I really value what you want to say to me or share, but I am really unable to give you my undivided attention. Can we schedule a time to talk? You know, sometimes, you know, someone would have this big fundraising idea, and it was like 2 minutes before I had to come on the platform. And there is just no way I could have given him my full attention. I just know that, right? And so I'm just like, what you have to say is so important. But, you know, maybe we can make it another time. And then there's times where somebody just wants to keep debating, and you have a core value, and you're just not seeing it that way, but you're trying to be respectful. And so you could just say, you know, I hear what you're saying, and I see that differently, and I really don't want to debate. I just would like us to agree to disagree. And those are just some samples, and you can make them your own. And so let us all take a deep breath. And so as we look at what we have explored this morning, I'd like to summarize it this way before we close. To live the golden rule in which we can respect the feelings, wishes, rights, beliefs, age, so on, or traditions of others, turn to wonder rather than judgment, condemnation, criticism, gossip, we can go on, and know that we are empowered to embody respect for ourselves and others, due regard when we can respect and take time for solitude and self-care. And so I'd like to close with these two quotes that come from the mystic Thomas Merton. The beginning of love is the will to let those we love be perfectly themselves, the resolution not to have to twist them to fit our own image. If in loving them we do not love what they are, but only their potential likeness to ourselves, then we do not love them. We only love the reflection of ourselves we find in them. And he shares, we do not go into the desert to escape people, but to learn how to find them. We do not leave them to have nothing more to do with them, but to find out the way to do them the most good. But this is only a secondary end. The one end that includes all others is the love of God. And so let us go within. And if it feels right, I invite you to close your eyes or have a soft focus, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I invite you to notice your body temple, sensing your feet, your hands, your shoulders, your back, your legs, your chest, your neck, your head. And as you become aware, as you scan your body from head to toe, take a moment to notice what in your physical presence is calling for attention, for gratitude, for tender, loving care and love. And in the stillness of your being, speak those words from the depth of your heart. Perhaps it is, I love you. I am grateful for the mighty work you do. And now bringing your awareness to your heart. Sense the pulse of your heart. If it feels right to place one or both of your hands over your heart. And allow your breath to grow deep and slow. And sensing the breath now emanating in and out of your heart space. And with each deep inhalation and exhalation, set the intention to commune in the spiritual chambers of your heart, where you allow your humanity to synchronize with your divinity, allowing the heart and mind breathing as one to be in holy coherence. And as you rest in the stillness, the sanctuary of your heart and soul, ask the wisdom of your heart? In what way does soul care and solitude speak to me? And who am I being asked to hold in regard? Where am I being asked to turn to wonder and curiosity rather than judgment and condemnation? And taking time in the stillness to allow the voice within to speak. Breathing in and breathing out. I allow the wisdom to reveal itself at the right and perfect time, whether it's right here and now in the stillness of this moment or another moment. And as I breathe in deeply, let me hold myself with love and compassion. And let me call to mind, and even if I choose to speak the names that I desire to hold with deep respect and compassion. May you be at peace. May you discover the love of your soul, the love of the divine. May you awaken to your true nature. May you be healed. And as we all awaken together, let us love one another. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. Breathing in and breathing out deeply, noticing our physical body again, our feet, our hands, if it feels right. Wiggle your toes, your fingers, bringing your hands to prayer pose above your heart as we bow to one another and say, I behold the light that you are. Together, I behold the light that you are. Namaste. Blessings. Have a fabulous week.